Some places don't just drain your time, they drain your soul. You walk in thinking it's harmless. You sit down thinking it's just for a minute. But the longer you stay, the more your peace slips through your fingers. See, the world has taught you to measure danger by what you can touch. But the real danger, it hides in what you can feel. It moves in places that don't break your skin, but bend your spirit. You've been walking into rooms not realizing they're rituals. You've been sitting in circles not seeing the spell. You've been calling it just a hangout, just some food, just resting, just being polite. But every visit chips away at your energy, your confidence, your health. And you wonder why your progress stutters, why your mind feels heavy, why your body's tired even after 8 hours of sleep. It's because you're not just spending time, you're spending yourself. And that's what they don't tell you. You don't just need a better diet. You need a cleaner atmosphere. You don't just need workouts, you need spiritual distance from contaminated places. You don't just need to think better, you need to stop entering the rooms that train your brain to betray itself. You see, witchcraft isn't always black robes and fire. Sometimes it's gossip over tea. Sometimes it's endless scrolling in a dark room. Sometimes it's the soft voice of someone who smiles while shrinking you. That's witchcraft too, because anything that manipulates your energy without your consent is casting a spell. You were meant to walk in truth, in discipline, in clarity. But these places, the ones you don't question, they've got smoke in the air, and your lungs are filling up slowly. So today we name them. We expose them. 5 places you've been visiting that are infested with spiritual disease. 5 places that look ordinary, but are soaking in subtle poison. Places that are not just killing your motivation, but your health, your identity, your future. This isn't superstition, this is survival. If you're serious about living strong, aging well, and walking in purpose, you've got to stop visiting these places. Not because you're scared, but because you're finally awake. Let's begin with the first one. It's louder than you think, and it always sounds like a good time. The first place you need to stop visiting is the house of gossip, the house of negativity. That room, whether online or in person, where people gather not to grow, not to rise, but to reduce everything around them. They talk, they whisper, they laugh, but underneath it all is bitterness, jealousy, emotional infection. And every time you enter that space, you get a little more contaminated. You walk in thinking you're just listening, but your nervous system is listening too. Your body records every word of judgment, every ounce of envy, every bitter tone. It doesn't just affect your mindset, it affects your biology. Your cortisol spikes, your anxiety builds, your clarity blurs, and worst of all, your spirit begins to shrink. You leave that room drained, but you don't know why. You didn't lift anything heavy, you didn't run a mile. But your soul, it just wrestled for survival in a space that fed on destruction. That's witchcraft. Because real spells don't always need candles. Sometimes they just need conversation. You sit there thinking, I'm not saying anything. But silence in the presence of poison is still agreement. And the longer you sit, the more your mind starts to imitate the room. You start seeing people through the same critical lens. You start measuring your worth by their stories. You stop celebrating and start comparing. That's the curse. And here's what makes this place even more dangerous. It feels like connection. These aren't strangers. These are co-workers, friends, cousins, even spiritual communities. It's wrapped in humor. It's dressed in concern, but the agenda is the same. To pull others down so we feel taller. You think you're just sharing, but you're really shedding your power every time you speak their language. You want your peace back? You want your health back? Stop visiting the house where everyone's living off the pain of others, where no one's healing, where no one's building, just talking, tearing, circling around the same small mindset. Let me tell you something, your future has no seat at that table. You've outgrown that space. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to argue. Just stop showing up. Don't explain. Don't return. Don't water down your life so you can sit at tables where no one's eating truth. You were not created to gossip. You were born to go forward. to build, to uplift, to create spaces where people speak life, not death, where words heal, not harm. The next time you hear, did you hear about, you walk away because you've heard enough, and now you're choosing health over hype. You're choosing truth over tradition, clarity over community, and that is how you break the spell. You think it's just a kitchen, just a room where food is made. But the second you step inside, the smells, the rituals, the memories, they all awaken something. Not just hunger, but habit. And not just any habit, the kind that keeps you stuck, sluggish, sick. You see, this kitchen, this place you keep returning to, isn't always about nourishment. It's about numbing. It's where you go to forget, to soothe, to reward yourself with what you know is slowly killing your clarity. That's not just a craving. That's a curse, a pattern that was passed down, maybe from generations, masked as love, masked as comfort, but rooted in spiritual sabotage. Witchcraft doesn't always look like a spell. It looks like that second plate, that third drink, that sugary treat you tell yourself you deserve after a long day. It looks like cultural traditions that feed your soul for a moment, but steal your health for a lifetime. It's the place where you say just this once, knowing deep down you've been saying that every week for 10 years. In the kitchen, it remembers. It remembers every time you caved to stress, every time you reached for food instead of facing the real wound. And now that wound is layered in fat, hidden under comfort, but still aching, still open, still bleeding into your energy, your joints, your sleep, your breath. This isn't just about food, it's about frequency. You cannot elevate your life while anchoring your body in habits that betray it. Your gut health is your mental health. Your digestion is your clarity. The kitchen is either your pharmacy or your funeral, and you decide. Every time you walk into that space, you're entering a battlefield. And the enemy isn't in the fridge, it's in your justification. The lie that says, I've earned this. But what have you really earned? More pain, more brain fog, more fatigue that you'll blame on age when it's really just inflammation? You got to cleanse that space. Spiritually and physically. Take back your kitchen, clear the shelves, remove the sugar, the seed oils, the foods that don't serve your future. Make it a sanctuary of strength. Let your spices be your medicine. Let your meals speak of respect, not regret. Don't call it self-love if it destroys your cells. Don't call it tradition if it keeps you trapped in disease. This is your turning point. You don't owe anyone the right to feed you failure. Because your body is not a garbage can for your emotions. It's a temple, a tool, a vessel for purpose. Reclaim your kitchen, and you reclaim your clarity. That's not just a health tip, that's spiritual warfare. The place in your home that's supposed to be sacred. A place of rest, of renewal, of healing. But for too many, it's become a graveyard of momentum, and they call it a bed. This third cursed place isn't where your body finds peace. It's where your spirit goes to hide. You know the feeling. The alarm goes off, but your hand hits snooze like it's a reflex. You don't even think about it. You just stay. Not because you're tired, but because the world outside that blanket feels heavy. You scroll, you dream, you wait, and the more you wait, the less you want to move. That's not comfort. That's a spell of stagnation. That bed becomes your cave, not a place of rest, but a place of avoidance. And the longer you lie there, the more your purpose decays. Not visibly, not loudly, but quietly, silently, in your discipline, in your habits, in the way your body starts to ache from stillness instead of movement. You begin calling it self-care. You say you're listening to your body, but truthfully, you're avoiding the pressure of becoming who you said you would be. That's witchcraft too, because the most dangerous spell is the one that makes you feel safe and delayed. It tells you you can do it tomorrow. You don't need to rush. Take your time. But time is not your servant. It is your sacrifice. And every morning you give to that bed becomes a debt your future must pay. You've got to stop confusing fatigue with fear. Stop confusing rest with retreat. Rest rebuilds, retreat reduces. And if your bed is leaving you weaker, not stronger, it's become a place of spiritual decline. You weren't made to lie still. You were made to move, to rise, to walk with purpose, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. That bed may feel soft, but it will bury your goals if you let it. So rise, even when it's dark, even when it's cold, even when your body wants comfort and your mind wants quiet. Rise, because that's how you reclaim the temple of your health. Turn your bed back into a sanctuary. Make it sacred again. Sleep to restore, not escape. Wake with reverence. Rise with urgency. Dress with discipline, and walk like someone who remembers. This life is not a rehearsal. You've got too much inside you to keep hiding under the sheets. There's a place you've been sitting in for years, not a room, not a kitchen, not a bed, but a circle of people who smile in your face but sigh at your ambition, people who laugh with you but shrink when you talk about growth. And you call it friendship, you call it family, but what it really is a spiritual sleepover. The fourth cursed place is in a physical space. It's the company of the spiritually numb, people who no longer dream, no longer strive, no longer evolve. They've accepted sickness as normal, laziness as lifestyle, complacency as character, and now they want you to sit in it with them. They don't burn sage, they don't chant spells, but the energy, it's just as binding. You show them your goals and they smirk. You mention your clean eating and they say, live a little. You talk about fasting, walking, praying, healing, and they look at you like you've lost your mind, because the moment you start rising, you remind them that they're not. And if you're not careful, you'll shrink to keep their approval. You'll minimize your hunger just to stay accepted. And that is the witchcraft, because now your growth has become conditional. You're trading health for harmony, trading your future for their comfort. You think you're being loyal, but you're really just lowering your frequency to stay loved. Listen to me. You cannot be loyal to their stagnation and your evolution at the same time. One will die, either your potential or your belonging. And you've got to decide which one you're willing to bury, because energy is contagious. Sit long enough with the spiritually numb, and you'll start talking like them, eating like them, thinking like them, and eventually you'll stop dreaming like you used to. If you want to live with purpose, you have to be ruthless with your environment. You've got to walk away from the joke if it lowers your spirit. Change the subject if it poisons your vision. Protect your time like it's your immune system, because it is. You're not better than them, but you're becoming something different. And if they can't handle that, let them go with love, but let them go, because your path is sacred. Your clarity is sacred. And the people around you must either sharpen you or they'll strip you. And guess what? So the next time you feel your energy drop around certain people, don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. That's your soul trying to warn you that room is not for you anymore. It never was. This is the most dangerous place of them all. Not because it's loud, not because it's crowded, but because it's always with you every morning, every night. Every time you pass a reflection, it's not the glass that curses you. It's the voice that meets you there. The fifth and final place you must stop visiting is the mirror of self-hate. You know what I'm talking about. That quiet room where you stand still and suddenly all the judgment comes flooding in. You're not strong enough. You're too far gone. Look at you, lazy, weak, late. It's not a mirror, it's a courtroom. And you're always the one on trial. That's not reflection, that's spiritual warfare. Because the enemy knows if he can get you to believe that you are broken, you'll stop trying to heal. If he can get you to curse yourself, he doesn't need to lift a finger. You'll do the damage for him. You stand there looking at your body, your wrinkles, your weight, your scars, and you think you're being honest, but you're not. You're being cruel. You're not seeing the truth. You're repeating old lies you were never meant to carry. That's witchcraft too, because what you say in that mirror becomes the script your mind repeats all day, and that script shapes your actions, and those actions build or break your health. Let me ask you something. Would you ever say to a child the things you say to yourself in the mirror? No. So why do you think you deserve that kind of punishment? You don't. What you deserve is compassion. Discipline, yes, but driven by self-respect, not self-hatred. Because you cannot hate yourself into healing. You cannot shame yourself into change. You must love yourself into discipline. Speak life into your flaws. Celebrate your growth, even when it's messy, because that's how you transform. So the next time you face the mirror, don't let the curse speak first. You speak, you declare, you rewrite the spell. You say, I am rising, I am choosing health, I am walking in clarity. I may not be perfect, but I am powerful. And watch how that mirror starts to change. Because there was never the mirror that held the curse, it was your mouth. And now that you've taken it back, you can walk away whole. You've seen the places now, the house of gossip, the kitchen of indulgence, the bed of avoidance, the circle of the numb, the mirror of self-hate. They looked harmless. Some even looked like home, but they were draining you bit by bit, day by day. And here's the truth. You can't just leave a cursed place. You've got to replace it, because nature hates a vacuum. If you don't consciously create new sacred spaces, the old ones will call you back. The gossip will start sounding like connection again. The comfort food will feel like celebration. That bed will whisper, just 10 more minutes. That mirror will beg for your approval with the same old lies. So you have to break the spell by building the opposite. If gossip was the curse, then intentional speech is your healing. Build a table where people speak truth, vision, and accountability. Talk about ideas, not people. If the kitchen was the trap, then transform it into a temple. Stock it with living foods. Make your meals moments of honor, not escape. If the bed became your coffin of avoidance, then turn it into a launching pad. Make rising up a ritual of respect. Start your day with breath, light, and motion, not endless scrolling. If your circle was filled with spiritually numb energy, then seek out the sharp, the driven, the ones who move with clarity and purpose. If the mirror was your battlefield, then write your power on it. Post your affirmations. Speak them out loud until they feel like truth again. The point is this. You have more control than you've been told. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. And you are not cursed unless you choose to keep living like it. Your energy is a reflection of the places you allow yourself to dwell. Change the places and you change the pace. You change the posture, you change the pattern. This is not about fear, it's about freedom. You've been given authority over your temple, your body, your mind, your home. Stop inviting contamination into sacred ground. You're not a victim of witchcraft, you're a warrior of awareness. So take back your house, take back your kitchen, take back your bed, take back your circle, take back that mirror. Because once you reclaim your spaces, your healing becomes unstoppable. Now you know. And when you know, you can't unknow. You can't walk back into the same places, pretending you don't see the poison anymore. You can't sit in silence while your spirit shouts for escape. You can't look in the mirror and curse your own reflection, then pray for peace. It's time to walk like someone who's covered, not cursed. You see, the curse was never stronger than your awareness. It only thrived because you never questioned it. You called it life. You called it normal. But normal was making you numb. And now, you've woken up. So walk differently. Walk with your shoulders back. Not because life is easy, but because you finally refused to carry what was never yours. Walk with clear eyes. Don't let your compassion blind your discernment. Just because they're smiling doesn't mean they're safe. Just because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's good. You've got to be willing to leave behind what no longer fits the life you're building. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them say you've changed, because you have. And change, real change, is offensive to those still enslaved to the old way. This journey isn't about superstition, it's about strategy. It's not about magic, it's about mastery. Mastering your energy, mastering your attention, mastering your environment. Because health isn't just the diet, it's the air you breathe, the words you hear, the people you allow near your nervous system. the stories you repeat to yourself. So speak like you're sacred, eat like you're sacred, rise like your body is preparing for war. Because in a world this noisy, staying clear is a revolutionary act. And when someone tries to hand you a seat at a cursed table, politely say, I no longer eat there. You've got new places to sit, new rooms to build, new altars to honor. You know, sometimes words aren't necessary. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make is made in silence, through action, through presence, through self-respect. You don't have to plead, explain, or demand your worth. Because let me tell you something, a man who truly sees your worth will feel it before he hears it. So today, let's talk about how you can show your value, not through your voice, but through the way you carry yourself. Here are 5 powerful methods to show a man your worth without saying a single word. Self-respect is not just a principle, it's a foundation. It's the way you carry yourself when no one is watching and the decisions you make when everyone is. It's the quiet yet profound message you send through your boundaries, your standards, and your actions. A woman who respects herself doesn't need to demand respect from others. It's automatically given because people can sense it. They see it in the way you hold your head high, in the way you gracefully decline things that don't align with your values, and in the way you walk away from situations that don't serve you. When you prioritize your self-respect, you don't settle for less than what you know you deserve. You stop chasing approval because you already approve of yourself. You don't beg for attention or validation because you understand your worth isn't up for negotiation. And let me tell you, when a man sees a woman who holds herself with that kind of quiet strength, it changes the way he looks at her. He begins to realize she's not just someone he can impress with words or empty gestures. She's someone who requires depth, sincerity, and effort. This kind of self-respect shows up in how you treat your time. You don't waste it on things or people that don't add value to your life. It's in the way you invest in yourself, whether it's your health, your education, your career, or your peace of mind. It's in the way you surround yourself with people who uplift you and the way you gracefully distance yourself from those who drain you. Self-respect also speaks volumes in your silence. When you don't react to disrespect, when you don't lower yourself to meet someone else's negativity, when you simply walk away with your dignity intact, that's power. That's showing your worth without saying a single word. A man observing you will quickly understand that you're not a woman who compromises her values for the sake of keeping peace or pleasing others. You're a woman who values herself enough to demand the same from the people around her. Growth is one of the most powerful ways to show your worth without uttering a single word. It's the quiet evolution of becoming better today than you were yesterday. When you invest in your personal development, it radiates through everything you do. It shows in the way you carry yourself, the way you solve problems, and the way you approach challenges. A woman who is committed to her growth doesn't need to broadcast her achievements. They're evident in her confidence, her intellect, and her actions. Personal growth is a reflection of self-respect and ambition. When you focus on bettering yourself, you send a clear message that your life is about more than waiting for someone else to define your worth. You're constantly evolving, learning, and striving for excellence in every aspect of your life. Whether you're pursuing higher education, learning a new skill, or dedicating time to your mental and physical health, these actions speak volumes about your character. They show that you're someone who values progress over stagnation, who is always looking for ways to elevate herself. This growth isn't just about external achievements, it's also about internal transformation. When you work on your emotional intelligence, your ability to communicate, and your resilience in the face of adversity, you're building a foundation of strength and wisdom that no one can take away from you. This inner growth makes you magnetic because it creates a sense of calm and purpose that others are drawn to. A man who witnesses this will quickly realize that you're not looking for someone to complete you, you're already complete. And his role is to complement your journey, not define it. Focusing on personal growth also shows in your discipline and consistency. The habits you build, the routines you follow, and the goals you set for yourself reveal a level of self-awareness and determination that cannot be ignored. It's in the way you choose to spend your time and the priorities you set, and in the people you allow into your life. Growth is about knowing your purpose and walking in it daily, even when it's hard, even when no one is clapping for you. A man who observes this kind of dedication to self-improvement can't help but respect it. He sees that your life is built on a foundation of strength, integrity, and a deep sense of purpose. It challenges him to grow as well, to rise to the level of your energy and effort. Your growth doesn't just inspire, it commands attention without ever needing to demand it. Independence is one of the most powerful ways to show your worth, and it speaks louder than words ever could. It's not about shutting people out or proving you don't need anyone. It's about demonstrating that you are whole and complete within yourself. When you maintain your independence, you send a clear message that your happiness, success, and peace of mind are not contingent upon anyone else. You've built a life for yourself that stands firm no matter who chooses to walk in or out of it. Independence starts with knowing who you are and what you want. It's about having your own dreams, your own goals, and your own plans. It means you're not waiting around for someone else to validate your choices or give you permission to live the life you envision. Whether it's through your career, your passions, or simply the way you manage your everyday responsibilities, your independence is a testament to your strength and self-sufficiency. A man doesn't need you to tell him you're capable. He'll see it in the way you handle your life with grace and determination. It's also about financial independence, the ability to provide for yourself and manage your resources without relying on anyone else. When you're not dependent on someone else to meet your needs, it creates a level of freedom and confidence that is undeniable. A man observing this will understand that you're with him by choice, not necessity, and that realization carries immense weight. Your independence allows you to engage in relationships from a place of strength, not desperation. Independence isn't just about external factors, it's also about emotional resilience. It's knowing how to navigate your own feelings, how to find your own peace, and how to stand firm in your decisions. When you show that you can weather storms without falling apart, it demonstrates an inner strength that commands respect. It tells a man that you're not someone who needs constant reassurance or attention to feel secure. You've already built that security within yourself. Independence also shows up in how you allocate your time. You're not waiting by the phone or rearranging your entire schedule to accommodate someone else. You have your own life filled with priorities and commitments that matter to you. Whether it's your work, your hobbies, or your relationships with family and friends, you've built a world that's rich and fulfilling with or without someone by your side. A man who sees your independence will quickly realize that you're a woman who knows her worth. You're not defined by your relationship status or someone else's opinion of you. Instead, your life is a reflection of your values, your efforts, and your vision. This independence doesn't just set you apart, it elevates you, showing him that your worth isn't something he needs to guess or question. It's evident in everything you do. Confidence is a language all its own. It doesn't require words, explanations, or justifications. It speaks through your actions, your demeanor, and the way you carry yourself. When you are confident in your decisions, it sends a message that you trust your own judgment and that you're not swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. It's not about arrogance, it's about assurance. Assurance that you know what's best for your life and that you have the courage to stand by your choices, no matter the outcome. Being confident in your decisions starts with clarity. When you've taken the time to reflect, to weigh your options, and to listen to your intuition, you can move forward without hesitation. A confident decision maker doesn't second guess herself or seek constant validation from others. She makes choices that align with her values, her goals, and her sense of purpose. This kind of clarity and conviction is incredibly powerful, and it's something a man will notice immediately. Confidence also shows in the way you own your choices, even when they're difficult or unpopular. It's easy to be confident when everything is going well, but the true measure of confidence is how you handle adversity. When you make a decision that others might not understand or agree with, your willingness to stand firm speaks volumes. It tells the world and him that you're not afraid to take risks or chart your own course. This confidence extends to how you handle mistakes. When you make a decision that doesn't go as planned, you don't crumble under the weight of regret or self-doubt. Instead, you learn from it, adjust, and move forward. That resilience is what sets you apart. It shows that your confidence isn't rooted in being perfect. It's rooted in knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. Confidence in your decisions is also about setting boundaries and sticking to them. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you or walk away from situations that don't align with your values, it's a powerful statement. It shows that you're not willing to compromise your integrity for the sake of convenience or approval. A man will quickly recognize that your decisions are not made on a whim. They're intentional, thoughtful, and grounded in self-respect. When you're confident in your decisions, it changes the way people interact with you. They respect your boundaries, they value your input, and they see you as someone who knows her worth. This confidence doesn't require you to be the loudest person in the room or the most assertive voice in the conversation. It's a quiet, steady strength that comes from within, and it's something a man can't help but admire when he sees it. Kindness is one of the most misunderstood strengths. Too often, people mistake it for softness, for a lack of boundaries, or for an invitation to take advantage. But true kindness, authentic, unshakable kindness, has nothing to do with being weak. It's about the courage to treat others with respect and dignity, even when circumstances don't demand it. When you show kindness without allowing it to compromise your self-worth, it's one of the most powerful ways to demonstrate your value without saying a word. Showing kindness begins with how you carry yourself. It's in the way you extend grace to others, not because they've earned it, but because you choose to operate from a place of strength. It's in the way you interact with those who can do nothing for you, the waiter, the janitor, the stranger in line at the store. Your kindness speaks volumes about your character, and a man paying attention will notice the depth of your heart through these seemingly small acts. But kindness doesn't mean being a pushover. It's not about saying yes to everything or tolerating behavior that crosses your boundaries. It's about knowing where to draw the line and doing so with grace. When someone disrespects you, kindness isn't staying silent or pretending it didn't happen. It's addressing the situation firmly but respectfully, making it clear that you expect better while maintaining your composure. Kindness without weakness also shows in how you forgive. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing harmful behavior. It means letting go of resentment for your own peace of mind. When you forgive, you show that you're strong enough to release what no longer serves you, but also wise enough to set boundaries that prevent repeated harm. A man who witnesses this will understand that your kindness isn't a license to mistreat you. It's a reflection of your maturity and inner strength. There's also strength in being kind when it's not easy. It's easy to be kind when life is smooth and people are pleasant. But true kindness is tested in adversity. When you choose to remain calm and gracious under pressure, when you refuse to retaliate with cruelty, even when wronged, you display a level of strength that commands respect. It's not about letting others off the hook. It's about showing that you won't let their actions define your behavior. Kindness without weakness is about being generous without expectation. Whether it's your time, your attention, or your resources, you give because it aligns with who you are, not because you're trying to gain approval or manipulate the situation. This type of giving comes from a place of abundance, and it communicates a quiet confidence in your ability to care for yourself while also uplifting others. A man will notice when your kindness is rooted in strength rather than insecurity. He'll see that you're not being kind to seek validation or avoid conflict, but because it's a core part of who you are. And that kind of kindness, firm, resilient, and unwavering, is a rare and beautiful thing. Ladies, the power to show your worth doesn't lie in the words you speak, but in the life you lead. When you prioritize your self-respect, focus on personal growth, maintain your independence, exude confidence in your decisions, and carry yourself with grace, you become a force to be reckoned with. Actions have a language that words cannot compete with. They speak directly to the soul, leaving no room for doubt about who you are and what you bring to the table. A man who recognizes your worth will do so not because you told him, but because he's seen it in how you live, how you respect yourself, and how you chase after the best version of you. True worth is undeniable, unshakable, and unspoken. It's in your ability to thrive, to stand tall, and to radiate the kind of strength and dignity that commands respect without demanding it. Remember, your worth was never meant to be explained, defended, or proven. It was meant to be demonstrated. Let your life be the proof of the incredible woman you are, and let that speak volumes in every room you enter. Let me tell you something real. Not everyone in your circle is in your corner. See, life has a way of revealing people, not through what they say, but through what they do when the spotlight is on you. Some people wear masks so well, they'll clap for you with a smile while praying you trip on your way up. They're close enough to hug you and still close enough to hurt you. But here's the truth. When you start paying attention, you'll notice the cracks. You'll see the signs. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. So today, we're not talking about enemies. We're talking about those silent saboteurs, the ones who call you bro, sis, fam, but feel a certain kind of way about your rise. Let's talk about the 5 signs that someone close to you secretly hates you. There's a certain kind of person who will never outright tell you they don't want to see you win, but they'll make sure you feel it. They'll disguise their discomfort with subtle sarcasm. They'll downplay every achievement like it was just luck or timing. You tell them you've been promoted, must be nice, and you say you bought a new car. Yeah, but let's see how long you can keep it. Every win you share becomes a trigger for their insecurity. And instead of applauding you, they analyze you, pick you apart, try to minimize your momentum like your growth is an inconvenience to their comfort. People like that don't see your success as something to celebrate. They see it as something that threatens the story they've written about you in their minds. Maybe they're used to being ahead of you. Maybe they liked when you played small, stayed quiet, dimmed your light. Because back then, they felt superior. But the moment you start evolving, leveling up, finding peace, walking different, speaking with confidence, they shift. And suddenly every step forward you take becomes something they try to twist, question, or overlook entirely. They won't congratulate you. They'll critique you. They won't acknowledge the grind, the long nights, the sacrifices you made to get where you are. They'll act like it just happened to you, like you just got lucky. And what's wild is it's not about the success itself. It's about the fact that you reached it. Because if someone else they admired did the exact same thing, they'd be shouting it from the rooftops. But when it's you, crickets, shade, half smiles, and half-hearted words. You'll notice they always find a way to pivot the conversation. You bring up something you're proud of, and somehow, 5 seconds later, they're talking about themselves. You shine, and they suddenly feel the need to compete. It's not admiration. It's a silent battle they're having with their own reflection. Because deep down, your success forces them to confront the parts of themselves they've been ignoring. It forces them to face what they haven't done, and that makes them uncomfortable. But here's the thing, you can't make yourself small enough to fix that. No amount of humility, silence, or dimming will ever be enough for someone who is secretly rooting against you. Their problem isn't your pride, it's your progress. Their issue isn't your confidence, it's that you no longer need their validation to keep going. So they minimize, they nitpick, they withhold support as a form of control. Because if they can keep you second-guessing yourself, maybe you'll slow down, maybe you'll doubt your lane, maybe you'll question if you really deserve it. And that's how they operate, not with open hatred, but with quiet sabotage. They'll clap softly so no one notices they're not really clapping. They'll give you compliments that sound like criticism in disguise. They'll act confused when others celebrate you. They'll say things like, "You've changed," as if growth is a betrayal. But the truth is, you didn't change. You just stopped seeking approval from people who were never genuinely happy for you in the first place. There's a silence that speaks louder than words, a look that cuts deeper than criticism. And sometimes the people closest to you, family, friends, even the ones who claim they love you, will show you exactly how they feel. Not by what they say, but by what they don't say. You'll notice it when your wins echo in a quiet room, when your success is met with blank stares instead of celebration, when you post something meaningful, powerful, full of passion, and their reaction is a scroll, a sigh, or a silent watch from the shadows. See, real support doesn't go silent when you shine. It doesn't freeze up when the light hits you. But fake love gets uncomfortable when you rise, because your elevation reminds people of their stagnation. And instead of clapping for you, they critique you. Instead of encouragement, they give you indifference. And if they do react, it comes with that little look, that side eye, that forced smile, that nod that's more about obligation than pride. And it hurts more when it comes from people you love. You expect strangers to be quiet, maybe even jealous, but not them. You expect your inner circle to be the loudest in your corner. But you'll find out that not everyone is built to handle your growth. Some people liked you more when you were struggling, when you needed them, when you stayed in the box they built for you. But the moment you start stepping outside of it, moving different, talking with purpose, walking in your truth, they don't know how to handle you anymore. So instead of cheering, they go silent. Instead of lifting you, they distance themselves. And you're left wondering if you did something wrong, if maybe you changed too much, too fast. But the truth is, their silence isn't your fault. It's their discomfort. It's their inability to celebrate something they haven't cultivated within themselves. Because clapping for you feels like admitting they're not moving. Supporting you feels like surrendering their sense of control. And that's not a you problem, that's a them problem. But silence is never neutral. Don't be fooled by it. It carries energy. When someone who claims to love you can't acknowledge your progress, when they ghost you in your glow up but expect a seat when you arrive, that's not loyalty, that's convenience. They want access to your struggle but not your success. They want the version of you that needed saving, not the version that saved yourself. And when you realize that, everything changes. You stop begging for attention. You stop shrinking to make them comfortable. You stop measuring your worth by how loud or how quiet they are when it's your time to be seen. Because support isn't just about presence, it's about participation. It's about energy. It's about those who show up when it matters, not just when it benefits them. Pay attention to who disappears when it's your season. Pay attention to the people who only cheer when you're losing, not when you're winning. Some folks will act like they didn't see your success so they don't have to deal with what it triggers in them. And some will smile to your face, but their silence will scream everything you need to know. Imitation can be the highest form of flattery, but sometimes it's not flattery, it's strategy. It starts off subtle. They study you, your energy, your style, the way you move, the way you talk, the way people respond when you walk in a room. They pay attention. They take notes. And at first, it might feel like admiration. You think, wow, they're inspired by me. But over time, you realize it's not inspiration. They're trying to be you. They copy how you present yourself. They start dressing like you, talking like you, moving in spaces you moved in first. And before you know it, they've taken pieces of your identity and stitched them into a version of themselves that feels strangely familiar. But here's the catch. It doesn't stop there. Because after the imitation comes the competition. Suddenly, they're not just mimicking you, they're measuring themselves against you. They want what you have, not because it suits them, but because it suits you. They saw the attention you got, the respect you earned, the lane you carved out of struggle and skill, and now they want that same reaction, that same recognition. But what they don't realize is this: your shine didn't come from imitation. It came from authenticity. It came from late nights, heavy trials, personal battles they never saw. They want your fruits, but not your roots. They want your crown, but not your climb. And instead of doing their own work, they try to replicate your results, and when that doesn't work, competition creeps in. You'll hear it in their tone, see it in their moves. Suddenly, it's a silent rivalry. They start trying to outdo you in conversations, one-up your achievements, even challenge your ideas in rooms they never earned a seat in. It's no longer about being like you, it's about being better than you. And not for growth's sake, for ego's sake, because they don't want to stand beside you. They want to stand over you. They're no longer inspired by you. They're intimidated. And that intimidation breeds competition. What makes it dangerous is that it's not always open warfare. It's disguised. It's masked as friendly banter, backhanded compliments, forced alliances. You might hear them say, "We're both doing great," but behind closed doors, they're racing a race only they're running. It's exhausting, confusing, and honestly, it can make you question yourself. You start wondering if maybe you're being too sensitive, but don't ignore that gut feeling. Don't overlook the shift. Real ones celebrate you. The rest imitate and compete, because they haven't built their own identity. You were never trying to be better than anyone. You were just trying to be you. And that's what threatens them the most, that your power doesn't come from comparison. It comes from truth, from alignment, from being original in a world obsessed with replicas. And the most dangerous competitor is the one who once clapped for you because you let them close. You gave them a blueprint and they mistook it for a shortcut. But the one thing they'll never duplicate is your why, your purpose, your intention, because that's what makes you different, and that's what they'll always be chasing, but never catching. Some people won't come at you directly. They don't have the courage to show their jealousy out loud or their bitterness in the open, so instead they wrap their resentment in ribbons. They disguise their envy in something that sounds like praise but feels like poison. That's the language of a backhanded compliment, subtle, slippery, strategic. They'll tell you, you actually look nice today, as if the other days were forgettable. Wow, I didn't think you could pull that off, like your confidence needs to be double-checked. Must be nice to have things come so easily, ignoring the nights you broke down just to build yourself back up. Every word is dipped in shade. Every sentence sounds sweet, but there's a sting underneath it, and that sting is intentional. It's not about being supportive. It's about being superior while pretending to be supportive. That's what makes backhanded compliments so dangerous. They come from people who act like they're in your corner, but they're really calculating how to stay one step ahead of you. They use those slick little comments to keep you second-guessing yourself, to make you question whether your win is really a win, to make your moment feel like a maybe. And you'll notice it often comes after something good happens for you. You step into a new level, a new room, a new light, and here they come, dressed up in compliments that twist as they land. You're lucky someone gave you a shot. I wouldn't have done it that way, but hey, it worked out for you. You're doing big things. Hope you can handle the pressure. They're always laced with doubt, always loaded with subtle digs, because deep down they can't stand that you're doing something they haven't figured out how to do yet. But instead of admitting that, they try to control the narrative. And how do they do that? Through language, through tone, through little jabs that look like jokes, through smiles that never quite reach the eyes. They want to throw you off balance, not knock you down, but tilt you just enough to steal your confidence. They want you to feel like you're not as good as you think you are, not as accomplished, not as worthy, because if they can water down your glow, maybe they won't have to look at their own dim light. It's a power move, a subtle manipulation. They keep it coded, so if you call it out, they can flip it on you. Oh, I was just joking. Wow, you're being sensitive. I was giving you a compliment. Don't be so defensive. And now you look like the problem. That's the trap. That's the game. They keep it just ambiguous enough to avoid accountability, but sharp enough to leave a mark. But don't be fooled. That language, it's fluency in insecurity. It's how people who haven't done their inner work respond to someone who has. They don't want to confront their lack of progress, so they confront your progress in passive-aggressive ways. And every time you rise, they find a new way to word their jealousy so it doesn't sound like jealousy. But if you listen close enough, you'll hear the truth behind the tone. Because real support doesn't sound like sarcasm. Real love doesn't need a disclaimer. Real friends don't compete, they celebrate. They speak life, not shade. They lift you, not laugh at you. And when you shine, they don't squint. They lean in and say, I see you. Keep going. Anything less than that is not support, it's strategy in disguise. You'll never truly know who's for you when everything's good, when the spotlight's on, the money's flowing, the energy is high, and you're on top of your game. Everybody wants to be around when it's celebration season. Smiles are easy. I got you is just a phrase, but wait until life humbles you. Wait until the storm hits, until you're low, lost, and leaning on faith more than facts. That's when the truth shows up. That's when the real ones stand out, and the rest quietly bow out. They disappear, not always loud, not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a slow fade, a missed call here, a busy right now text there, less and less check-ins. Suddenly the people who once called you family can't even send a message when you're drowning. They ghost when you're grieving. They vanish when you need someone to hold space. And the worst part, you start to question yourself. You wonder, did I ask for too much? Was I a burden? No, you weren't. You were just inconvenient for the version of them that only loved you when you were strong. Because it's easy to love somebody at their best. It's easy to show up when the vibe is right, when the mood is high, when there's something to gain. But when you're broken, exhausted, out of options, when you have nothing left to offer except your need, that's when the weight becomes too much for the people who never planned to carry any of it. They weren't built for your darkness. They were addicted to your light. And the moment that light dimmed, they dipped. They'll make excuses. I didn't know how to help. I was dealing with my own stuff. I thought you needed space, but the truth is, presence doesn't always require a solution. Sometimes it's just a text that says, I'm here. A moment of silence that feels like support, a shoulder, even if it doesn't have the words. Real people show up even when they don't know what to say. They sit with you in the ugly moments. They don't flinch when life gets heavy because their love isn't based on convenience, it's based on commitment. And when someone disappears in your worst season, believe them. Believe their absence, because people can only hide their true intentions for so long. When it's not about celebration, when it's about confrontation of pain, struggle, vulnerability, that's when masks fall off. That's when you see who was clapping for you out of genuine joy and who was clapping because it was popular to be associated with your shine. But here's the catch. Their absence isn't always the loss you think it is. Sometimes it's the universe making space. Sometimes it's life trimming your circle so your soul can finally breathe. You don't need a crowd. You need consistency. You don't need everyone. You need someone. That one who sticks around when the cameras are off, when you're not okay, when your life doesn't look picture perfect. Those are your people. The rest, lessons, warnings, red flags wrapped in friendship. So don't chase those who vanished. Don't beg those who turned their back when your world turned upside down. Let them go. Because anyone who can't handle your struggle doesn't deserve to stand next to your success. At the end of the day, it's not paranoia, it's pattern. It's not about walking around with suspicion in your heart, but with discernment in your spirit. Because sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones smiling beside you. Not every enemy is a stranger. Sometimes they're in your circle, not because they support you, but because they're studying you, waiting for the right moment to drain your energy, doubt your dreams, or dim your light. But here's the truth. When you start noticing these signs, the silent shade, the missing presence, the backhanded praise, it's not your job to call them out. It's your job to call yourself higher. You weren't born to shrink to keep people comfortable. You weren't made to tolerate subtle disrespect just to avoid conflict. You're not required to entertain people who clap for you in public, but compete with you in private. Your peace is not up for debate. Your energy is not for sale, and your circle is sacred. You see, it's not about becoming cold or closed off. It's about becoming clear. Clear on who deserves your loyalty. Clear on who you can trust with your heart, your dreams, your truth. Because once you understand the difference between real love and hidden hate, you stop explaining yourself. You stop begging for what should be freely given. You stop questioning your gut and start honoring your growth. So keep your eyes open. Protect your energy. And never apologize for outgrowing those who were only rooting for the version of you that stayed small. Life is precious. Every breath we take, every moment we share with the people we love, it all matters. But there comes a time when life begins to slow down, when the pages of someone's story start turning toward their final chapter. It's a difficult truth, one that most people don't want to face, but ignoring it won't change it. What we can do is pay attention, be present, and make sure the ones we love are not walking that final stretch alone. There are signs, subtle yet powerful, that tell us when an elderly person may be in their final year. These aren't warnings meant to bring fear. They are invitations to bring love, understanding, and comfort to someone who needs it most. If you see these signs, don't look away. Step closer. When an elderly person begins to eat significantly less, it's often more than just a change in preference. It's a signal that their body is slowing down in ways we may not want to acknowledge. The foods they once craved no longer hold the same appeal. Meals go unfinished, and even the act of chewing or swallowing might seem like an effort. You may notice that they start skipping meals altogether, claiming they're simply not hungry, or that food doesn't taste the same anymore. Their body, once dependent on a steady intake of nourishment, begins to reject what it once needed. Weight loss becomes rapid and at times alarming. Clothes that once fit perfectly now hang loose. Their face thins out and their hands look more fragile than before. You might see them trying to eat, pushing food around on their plate, taking just a bite or two before setting it aside. And while loved ones may encourage them to eat, to drink, to keep their strength up, the truth is that the body knows when it no longer needs the same level of sustenance. The digestive system begins to slow down, metabolism decreases, and food that once fueled their energy is now more than their body requires. There's also a shift in cravings. If they do eat, it's often smaller portions of soft foods, broths, or even just sips of water. Sometimes they begin preferring sweeter foods over anything else as taste buds change with age. Other times they refuse food completely, not out of stubbornness, but because their body is signaling that it's time for rest, not replenishment. This shift can be difficult for family members to witness because food has always been a symbol of care, of nourishment, of life itself. Watching someone decline it can feel like they are slipping away, like they are letting go before we are ready. Even the way they drink fluids changes. You may notice they take fewer sips of water throughout the day. Their lips become dry and dehydration sets in more quickly. They may not express thirst the way they once did, and even when offered water, they drink in small amounts, if at all. These subtle changes often happen gradually until one day you realize the person who once enjoyed their favorite meals with enthusiasm now barely lifts a spoon to their lips. It's not just about the physical aspect of nourishment either. There is an emotional and psychological shift that comes with this change. The act of eating is social, it is communal, it is something that brings people together. When an elderly person starts withdrawing from meals, it's not just their appetite that is diminishing. It's their connection to certain aspects of life. Sitting at the dinner table may feel exhausting to them, and the sounds, smells, and conversation that once brought comfort may now feel overwhelming. Family members and caregivers often struggle with this, wanting to encourage them to eat just a little more, to take one more bite, to drink just a little bit of water. But the body knows what it needs and what it no longer does. The focus then should shift from trying to force food into a body that is slowly letting go to ensuring that they are as comfortable and at peace as possible. Warm soups, small spoonfuls of soft food, sips of their favorite drinks, all offered with love, not pressure. Sometimes it's not about the meal itself, but about sitting beside them, holding their hand, and simply being there. Fatigue in the elderly isn't just about feeling tired. It's a deep, consuming exhaustion that no amount of rest seems to cure. It's a shift in energy that happens gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. They begin to sleep more, drifting off in the middle of conversations or while watching television. Mornings that used to be full of routine and movement now stretch into late afternoons with longer periods of stillness. You notice them closing their eyes more often, even when they're sitting up, their body craving rest in a way it never did before. This isn't just normal aging. It's the body slowing down, conserving energy, preparing in ways we don't always recognize. The once vibrant person who woke up early, who moved around the house with purpose, now prefers the quiet of their chair, the softness of their bed. Their steps become slower, their movements more deliberate. Even small tasks, like getting up to grab something from another room, feel like monumental efforts. They may sit down halfway through, their breathing heavier, their body refusing to move as it once did. But it's not just the physical fatigue, it's emotional withdrawal too. Conversations that used to excite them now feel like too much effort. They listen but don't respond as much. The twinkle in their eyes dims. The laughter that once filled the room becomes rare. They start declining invitations, staying in their room more, choosing silence over engagement. Family members and friends may think they're simply disinterested, but the truth is their energy is no longer spent on external distractions. It turns inward, into reflection, into a quiet acceptance of time passing. You may notice they no longer answer the phone like they used to. The person who once called you every day now lets the phone ring, unread messages piling up. They might not greet visitors at the door anymore, preferring to stay seated, nodding but not fully engaging. It's not that they don't care, it's that even the act of socializing takes energy they no longer have. The joy they once found in conversations, in hearing about your day, in reminiscing about the past, now feels like a distant echo. Even their interest in favorite hobbies begins to fade. The book that once kept them up late at night sits untouched on the table. The television shows they followed religiously now play in the background as they close their eyes. The garden they once tended with pride is left to the hands of others. The projects, the puzzles, the small things that once brought them joy no longer hold the same significance. They are slowly retreating from the world, detaching from the routines and habits that once defined their days. Loved ones often try to pull them back, encouraging them to get out, to engage, to fight the fatigue. They might push them to take a short walk, to sit outside for some fresh air, to stay active. And while there are moments when they do, when they summon the energy to engage, those moments are fleeting. Because the body, the mind, the spirit, it knows when it's time to slow down. It knows when it's preparing for something deeper. This withdrawal is not always immediate. It happens in phases. Small moments of disconnection that eventually become the norm. They begin speaking less, sitting in long silences, staring out the window as if lost in thought. Sometimes they seem to be in another place entirely, reminiscing, remembering, reflecting. And though they may not say it aloud, there is an understanding, one that is unspoken but deeply felt. For family and caregivers, this change can be difficult. We want to keep them engaged, to keep them connected to life. We want to remind them of the things they used to love, the activities that once made them happy. But there comes a time when the best thing we can do is not to push, but to meet them where they are. To sit beside them, to hold their hand, to let them rest without expectation. To understand that their journey is shifting, that their world is becoming quieter, slower, more reflective. And in that space, there is peace. As we age, the body's ability to recover from even the smallest ailments begins to slow. What was once a minor cold now lingers for weeks. A simple bruise takes longer to fade. A small cut refuses to heal as quickly as it used to. The immune system, once a silent guardian, now struggles to keep up, allowing sickness to take hold more easily. It's not just about feeling under the weather. It's about a body that is growing weary, a system that isn't bouncing back the way it once did. Frequent health declines start to become part of everyday life. The elderly person who used to be strong and resilient now seems to always be battling something, whether it's an infection, an ache, or an overall feeling of unwellness. One moment they seem fine, and the next they're feeling weak, fatigued, or experiencing symptoms that never quite go away. A lingering cough, a nagging pain in their joints, a constant sense of exhaustion that no amount of sleep seems to cure. These aren't isolated incidents, they become patterns, signs that the body is taking longer to fight off even the most minor of ailments. Hospital visits or doctor's appointments start becoming more frequent. Checkups that used to be a once-a-year necessity turn into biannual, then quarterly, then monthly visits. Prescriptions pile up as new medications are introduced to manage symptoms, to help the body function as best it can. Each visit brings another diagnosis, another adjustment to their daily routine. Blood tests, scans, treatments. They become a revolving door of medical attention, and yet nothing seems to fully restore them to the health they once had. Recovery from illness or injury takes longer too. A bout of pneumonia that a younger person might recover from in a week stretches into a month. A simple fall that once resulted in a quick recovery now leads to weeks of limited mobility, physical therapy, and dependence on others for help. The body no longer snaps back. Instead, every illness, every injury leaves a lasting impact, draining energy, requiring more time, more effort to regain even a fraction of the strength that was lost. Even common colds feel different. What used to be a minor inconvenience now brings serious fatigue, appetite loss, and days spent in bed. Fevers spike higher, dehydration sets in faster, and infections take hold in ways they never did before. The elderly person might start to feel like they are constantly fighting off something, never quite feeling fully well. And as their body struggles, so does their spirit. This slow decline is not always dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a series of small moments. Another fall, another illness, another stretch of time spent recovering instead of living. And with each setback, they begin to withdraw further, their world shrinking as their energy fades. The fight to stay strong becomes harder, and sometimes they simply don't have the strength to push through like they used to. Loved ones begin to notice the changes. They see the difference in how long it takes for their elderly family member to regain their energy. They notice how, after a simple flu, they never quite return to the level of health they had before. It's a slow, steady shift, one that is hard to recognize in the moment, but becomes painfully clear over time. When the body takes longer to heal, when the list of ailments grows longer, when recovery starts to feel like an uphill battle that never ends, it's a sign that the body is preparing for something deeper. It's a warning that should not be ignored, a signal that time is moving in a direction we may not want to face. And while we cannot stop the process, we can be there, we can show up, we can pay attention, we can offer comfort in the moments when healing no longer comes easily. As life nears its final chapter, an elderly person often begins to seek emotional and spiritual closure in ways that may not be immediately obvious. This is not about giving up, it's about making peace. It's about finding resolution with the past, about settling unfinished business, about ensuring that nothing is left unsaid. They may suddenly feel the need to reconnect with old friends, distant relatives, or even those with whom they had conflicts long ago. Conversations become deeper, more reflective. Instead of discussing everyday matters, they start speaking about memories, life lessons, and the things that truly matter. Regret has no place in a peaceful goodbye. That's why many elderly individuals begin to open up about things they've held in for years. They may want to apologize for past mistakes or express gratitude for the people who have shaped their lives. They may bring up moments from decades ago, events that seemed insignificant at the time but have lingered in their hearts. They begin to reminisce with a sense of urgency, as if they are trying to pass down wisdom, trying to ensure that their story, their experiences, their legacy will not be forgotten. A shift in priorities becomes evident. They no longer seem concerned with trivial matters. The worries of the past, the need for status, the desire for material wealth, the conflicts that once seemed all-consuming fade into the background. Instead, they focus on love, on family, on faith, on making sure that the people they care about know exactly how they feel. They may start to give away their possessions, not because they no longer have use for them, but because they want to see their loved ones enjoy these things while they are still here. There is also a noticeable change in their spiritual awareness. They might become more prayerful, more reflective, more at peace with the unknown. They may begin attending religious services more frequently, reading sacred texts, or engaging in conversations about the afterlife, purpose, and destiny. Even those who have never been particularly religious might start asking deeper questions, seeking comfort in a higher power, looking for reassurance that their journey doesn't simply end. A sense of acceptance starts to settle in. There is no longer a fight against time, no more resisting the inevitable. Instead, there is a quiet acknowledgement, a sense of embracing what comes next. This does not mean they stop living, but rather that they begin living with a new kind of clarity. They choose their words more carefully. They spend their time more intentionally. They pour their remaining energy into the things that truly matter. Their conversations may start to sound different. They might speak about when I'm gone instead of when I get better. They might encourage their loved ones to be strong, to take care of one another, to carry on their values. They might begin preparing those around them for what they know is coming, not in fear, but in love. They don't want to leave their family in emotional turmoil. They want them to feel a sense of peace, knowing that they lived a full life. They may also withdraw at times, needing moments of solitude to reflect, to process, to prepare themselves internally for what lies ahead. This is not rejection, this is introspection. It is a natural part of the journey, a way for them to find their own sense of peace before they take their final step. For those around them, this can be a difficult thing to witness. It can feel as though time is slipping away too quickly, as though every conversation, every interaction carries an added weight. But this process is not about sorrow. It is about completion. It is about allowing them to leave with dignity, with peace, with the knowledge that their presence, their love, their impact will remain long after they are gone. One of the most telling signs that an elderly person may be in their final year is a noticeable shift in their cognitive abilities or personality. These changes can be subtle at first, creeping in like shadows in the late afternoon, but over time they become undeniable. It may start with small lapses in memory, forgetting names, misplacing objects, struggling to recall recent conversations, but then it deepens. They may begin to repeat the same stories, unaware that they have already told them, or they might drift off in the middle of a sentence, their mind momentarily lost in a place only they can see. Confusion can become more frequent. A person who once navigated their home effortlessly might suddenly forget which door leads to the bathroom. They might wake up in the middle of the night convinced it's morning, or struggle to differentiate between past and present, as if time itself is unraveling. These moments are not just frustrating for them, they are disorienting, frightening. The world they once knew starts to blur, and reality becomes fluid. Beyond memory loss, their personality may shift in ways that seem entirely out of character. Someone who was once strong-willed and outspoken may become unusually quiet, withdrawn, even indifferent to the things they once loved. A person known for their patience and kindness may suddenly become irritable, frustrated, or even aggressive, lashing out in ways that don't align with the person their loved ones have always known. These shifts are not a reflection of who they truly are. They are the result of deeper biological changes, the mind's way of processing the closing of a long journey. Emotional regulation becomes difficult. They may cry over things that once wouldn't have fazed them, or they may seem completely detached, as if emotions no longer reach them in the same way. They might stare out the window for long periods, lost in thought, or struggle to find the motivation to engage in conversations. This is not just about mood swings. It is about the brain itself shifting gears, preparing for an inevitable transition. Hallucinations are another sign, though they are often misunderstood. An elderly person nearing the end may begin to see or hear things that others do not. They might talk to a loved one who has long since passed, or they may mention seeing figures in the room, a presence that no one else can perceive. Some believe this is the mind's way of processing the approach of the unknown, a merging of this world with whatever comes next. In many cases, there is a return to childhood tendencies. They may revert to old habits, calling out for their mother or father as if they were still a child. They might suddenly crave the foods they ate when they were young or hum melodies from their earliest memories. This regression is not something to fear. It is a natural part of the process, a way of seeking comfort in familiarity. There is also a shift in communication. Conversations become less about the present and more about the past. They might speak in metaphors, using language that suggests they are preparing to leave. I need to get ready for my journey. It's almost time for me to go. Or I'm waiting for someone to come get me. These statements, though poetic, often carry deeper meaning, signaling that they are mentally preparing themselves for the next stage. For loved ones, witnessing these changes can be painful. It is difficult to see someone who was once so full of life now struggle to recognize faces, to hear their voice take on a distant, detached tone. But it is important to remember that this is not a loss of dignity. It is a shift in being. It is the mind and spirit recalibrating, making sense of the transition that lies ahead. This stage of life demands patience, understanding, and deep compassion. It requires loved ones to meet them where they are, to listen even when their words don't always make sense, to hold their hand when they seem lost, to reassure them that they are not alone. These moments, though heavy with sorrow, are also filled with love, the kind of love that transcends memory, personality, and time itself.